and there's been a bunch of talk lately, just basically about the Dragonforce and the Affinity and stuff. And I did a review of the Affinity sails a little while back, and I just wanted to kind of, I guess, kind of show you a few more differences between the models and stuff. So it all basically started with this sail here, and the version 1 boat, right? Pretty cool looking sail. You know, it's ripstop. It stretched when it got wet. That RG65 logo is definitely not legal, but you know, they're pretty cool looking sails considering, you know, the dragon was on there and stuff. And then as the model kind of developed into what's now the version 6 there, you know, it kind of changed to a more racier kind of version of the class. So so it started with that, and you know, as you can tell, like, I mean, the quality of the build was still kind of okay. Like, I mean, when you consider a kit was less than $200, right? So it had battens here, battens there, another batten there, and on the jib there was one there, one there. So so we're just going to go through a few extra differences between the sails and talk a little bit about the Affinity. All right. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll just take a little look at some of the batten widths, and we'll weigh some of the sails and kind of have a look like that. So these battens here on the original Dragonforce were Alright, so it looks like 0.02. Okay, and let's just see here, they're pretty stiff, so they didn't really flex too well. Okay, and on the build here, there's they reinforce this corner instead of using reinforcement tape. They use the same material as the batten there. And you can tell by the eyelets there, that's a single without the washer. Okay. The nice thing is that that particular hole made it kind of easy to put the thread through. Okay. Another thing about the jib was it had a, I think it was, I can't even remember now. But anyways, it's a sewn pocket. I think it was string, but if not, it might have been a light wire. Okay, and on the jib, it was the same kind of batten thing going on there. Okay, up at the head of the sail, right, it had this really thick plastic, same material as the batten kind of thing there. And see the eyelet without the washer. Okay, and the paint and everything, like, I mean, alright, so that's the stock sail. Okay, that's now history because, you know, they just, they've changed it so much now. So, but what we're going to do is we'll put this to the side and we'll weigh the batches. Okay, so that's the main and jib. Okay, now a while back, I did a little review about the Affinity sails. Now, I talked about the build quality. I talked about you know, shaping and stuff like that. All right, so we'll just take a look here, and so on the eyelets, they do have a little washer. It's very thin, right? So that's the way that they do it there. Okay, so they put washers in on all the eyelets. Okay, with the reinforced corner. All right, and we'll just measure how thick the battens are here. So it looks there, that's 0.03 actually. So it's actually a thicker batten on the Affinity. Okay, and it feels as if feels pretty stiff there too as well. So on the main, there's that. Okay, and we'll just go to the jib here. Now, I had talked a while back about the jib tabling and the quality. So you see there's pretty heavy crinkles in that. Now, will it stretch out? Yeah, you could probably stretch it out by pulling on it pretty good there. Okay. It's a string instead of a wire, and they're reinforced with washers. Although, like, I mean, you look at the quality of the washer build, right? So there you have it there, and you see how they've actually haven't pushed the eyelet through properly on this one. So they're built fairly quickly, right? Another thing that I had pointed out a while back too as well is that the head on these are really thick. So that's like 23 mil. So I think class rules is like 18 or something like that. All right, then we'll take a look at the version 6 sails that's come out. Okay, and it's a Mylar. They're both Mylar. Okay, and about the same quality thickness. But let's just have a quick little look here. Okay, so just going to lay them on top and measure them up. So they're exactly the same on the foot. And we'll take it right up to the top here. Same on the top. What's interesting is that the version 6 sails, so we just lay it up like this, are actually a few millimeters taller. Okay, so you see there, they actually sit about 5 mil taller. Okay, and that's leveled out with the eyelets here. Okay, so this eyelet sits a little higher. This one a little bit higher too as well. The batten's the same there, a little bit higher there, a little bit higher there, and up there. Okay. They come with draft lines, so no draft line on the Affinity. Okay. This is not legal for RG65, so you're going to have to get rid of that if you're going to race RG65. It's way too big. And let's just check out the batten width on this one. So the batten width there is like 0.01-ish. Okay, and you can really tell the difference because let's just flip it over here. So these are a lot softer. Okay, they offer a little bit more curve and they'll come back kind of thing. They're also a lot thinner, whereas the ones on the Affinity are quite a bit thicker. Okay, and you can tell by the build quality, like, I mean, okay. Now, that is the main, so they're not quite the same size. Now, let's take a look at the jib. I talked a bit about the crinkling on the main here. In comparison, this is the version 6 sail. Okay, and you can tell, you know, it's a lot better made. Now, another thing with the eyelets you can see on the version 6 is that they've actually punched all the way through for the eyelet. So that's a very clean eyelet. And that's going to hold in place with the washer there quite nicely. It's also a wire stay. This is the one on the Affinity. So like you look at that, and they've kind of messed up on that eyelet actually. And we might have talked about this already, but this one didn't even come through properly. And it's a string. Okay, no battens on either of these. And the heads are much different. So, alright, so that's to do with the sails. What we're going to do is we're going to roll these up. We're going to see how much they weigh. So my trusty scale here. So we're going to weigh the original Dragonforce sails, and there is no wire installed, so we're going to see how much those weigh. So we're at 18 grams on the original Dragonforce sails. We'll roll up the Affinity sails, and it does have the string, so just factor in the weight for the string there. Okay, so let's take away 22 grams on the Affinity sails. And the version 6 sails with the wire installed. $29 grams. Okay, so they can you guys see that? There you go. 29. Okay, so I believe they come in a bit heavier, but again, it's a much better quality sail, and they are using a wire instead of string. All right, it could be that the eyelets are adding to the weight, because they do feel a bit heavier duty, and that's that. Like, I mean, so that's to do with the sails. Okay, so we'll just put that to the side. I just want to talk about a few more differences with the Dragonforce, and especially the version 6. So one of the things about the version 6, and the big rock star of it, is to do with this new gooseneck setting. One of the things that you're not going to get with the Affinity is this stylish 65 logo for the new Dragonforce. Okay, everything else pretty well is the same as far as the insides. Now, taking a closer look at the Dragonforce, like, I mean, when it comes down to the differences between this and, say, the Affinity, like, I mean, the channel on here is a lot better of a setup for than the Affinity in terms of strength and just being a cleaner kind of deck. Everything back here is the same. The guts is kind of like version 5, similar to version 5. Waterline, the keel and the bulb is the same. The rudder is the same. Now, one of the differences is the nose. Okay, so this one has a straighter nose, whereas the Affinity has more of an angle. So you're going to lose a bit of water line there. Okay, also according to the specs of Hobby King, is the hull is 150 mil, whereas the beam on the Dragonforce is like 116 mil. So you'll see that the Affinity is much more of a fatter kind of boat, different kind of layout. Okay, yeah, so here's the thing. The Hobby King version of that HydroPro Affinity, you know, you can't beat that deal, right? Right now, I think it's priced at about $115 or something like that. It's been out, I think, probably about a year and a half, something like that. You know, you get the A and B sail with it, so it's a pretty good package. Like, I mean, a lot of the parts, the inside parts are interchangeable with the Joysway ones. Having said that, the pricing of those parts is about the same anyways, so you're not really saving anything there. But you know, honestly, like, I mean, you can build a fleet with them, and sail them. The problem I see with it, though, is that no one's really come up with a set of rules to run on that class. And you know, while it kind of claims to be an RG65 kind of boat, and I think they're trying to kind of tag along with that. But honestly, if you bought that boat and sailed it with a bunch of RGs, you should hope that the winds would come up quite a bit, and you definitely have to change your sails. So I think in order to be competitive with that boat. So, you know, in my opinion, when it comes to like the differences between the Affinity and the Dragonforce, I'd say, is that, and you know, I chose Dragonforce because the way that the class has been developed, and you've got the rules out there. And you know, it's great for a one design to actually have its own rules. Like, I mean, the Affinity doesn't really have a class rule section, I believe. So when it comes down to a person who is really interested in sailboat racing and is just starting out, you know, they have something to go by. And not only that, you know, it's groups like RC Groups, radiosailing.net, you know, the class associations for around the world and stuff for Dragonforce. Like, I mean, there's a huge community for Dragonforce. And you know what, I'm sure there's guys out there who swear by the Affinity as far as you know, being the best cost-effective way to, say, grow a fleet and stuff like that. But then you're going to have to develop your own rules, because they don't really have any rules. So in my opinion, the best boat, one design boat that has come out and really kind of set the ground for expansion into other kind of classes. Like, I mean, you know, I started with the Dragonforce and I grew into IOM. I have a Dragonflight. Like, I mean, I just love RC sailing. Like, I mean, you know, it's been a great hobby for, you know, meeting people and really learning the various aspects of tech, the you know, the tech stuff, all the, you know, different things that you can do with the boat. Like, I mean, super fun. I'm not saying that you can't get that with the Affinity, but I think the community for the Affinity is a little bit more reserved. So and kind of laid back. They're not. I would say they're not as serious. They're the let's say you go out to you know, a kids camp or something like that, and you want to start sailing a bunch of sailboats. Well, that's probably a perfect boat for that kind of thing. But having said that, you know, the Dragonforce is also a perfect boat for that scenario, and you also have the option to take that boat and go somewhere else to sail it in an actual event, because there's likely a regatta for these Dragonforce and regular kind of racing series in your neighborhood, or close to your neighborhood anyway. So you know, the Affinity has something going for them when it comes to cost, right? But when it comes down to really going long term, it's you know, in my opinion, it's the Dragonforce. Still best bang for buck when it comes to an actual high performance racing yacht. And has great equipment. The quality of the product is better. You know, when you try to get service from Hobby King, you go into the chat group and you gotta wait for a guy, the operator comes on. Then, you know, they don't always just send you out a new part. They tell you what part you're supposed to get, and then probably, you know, ship it out to you if you complain enough. Or they'll make you ship back your stuff at your cost, right? I've had it where, you know, I've said a few things where, you know, maybe I could have had this, could have had that, and or if something goes wrong, and Radio Sailing just deals with it. So it's really opposites when it comes to that kind of support too. So anyways, hey, I'm Consumer Will. Subscribe, like my videos. I keep on going with this kind of stuff, and it's not always sailing either. You know, I'll do other stuff, and you know what, it's YouTube. So, you know, this is my opinion. This is how I see it. If you don't agree, that's fine. I don't, you know, I respect that. But you know what? Like, I mean, that's just how I see it. You know. Okay, so thanks for watching. We'll see you guys. Cheers.